should do on a humanitarian basis, immediately go into Libya, knock this guy out very quickly, very surgically, very effectively. More importantly, we're going to save lives. And we should then say, by the way, from all of your oil, we want reimbursement.
Viva Maduro!
Viva!
Viva Maduro!
Viva!
Hands off Venezuela! Hands off Venezuela! Hands off
Venezuela!
Hands off
Venezuela!
Hands off
Venezuela!
Hands off
Venezuela!
Hands off!
I think anybody who has a serious commitment to international human rights needs to be at US Embassy wherever in the world they live in order to voice their opposition to the very worrying build-up of US aggression against Venezuela and against the self-determination of the Venezuelan people.
I lived in Venezuela for a year and I really love the country, and I'm out protesting really on behalf of my friends in Venezuela who are very worried that a war is going to kick off. I lived in Merida, which is close to the border with Colombia, and my friends are terrified that there's American army there and that there's going to be an invasion.
I was in Venezuela in December 2017 to oversee elections as an independent observer, and I can honestly say the elections were fair. They were done with a very sophisticated technological electronic voting system backed by a paper trail so people could check that their vote was recorded correctly. And the results that I saw echoed what I got when I talked to people in the queue. So I think it was a fair election. I'm very, very convinced of that. And I think that the people of Venezuela are entitled to their sovereignty. Whatever anyone has to say about individual policies of Nicolas Maduro, he is the elected president, and we, under international law, have got to defend people who are elected and people who stand for election, as apart from people who don't stand for election and then declare themselves to be president.
Americans don't believe in democracy. There isn't a snowball's chance in hell of the United States of America invading, conquering and occupying Saudi Arabia, where rumour has it it's not all that democratic. This is not about democracy.
We may as well say that Donald Trump is not the legitimate president of the US because he didn't win the popular vote. We may as well declare Nancy Pelosi as the real president, even though she didn't stand in the election, or perhaps Oprah Winfrey. The parallel is exactly the same. In the end of the day, whatever you think of President Maduro, he is the chosen representative of the people of Venezuela, and it is only for the people of Venezuela and them alone to decide their future and to decide their form of government.
The other thing I noticed is that people are very mobilised on both sides. There was a lot of middle-class people who came up and told me what they thought of the Maduro government, which was very, very hostile.
Mainly they're in Caracas and they're very elite Venezuelans. They live mainly in the very rich areas of Caracas, and they hated Hugo Chavez when I was there. They hated him. They would say stuff about the working class. They would call Hugo Chavez racist names like El Lobo, which is a very racist name based on his colour. They hated Hugo Chavez. They hate Maduro, but you know, that's democracy. They were elected. They can't tolerate it. They can't accept it. They're very wealthy. They're very elite, and they just don't want to accept the democratic vote of mainly working class people who voted for Maduro.
But in the barrios, there was a lot of very committed people to the Bolivarian revolution, and they certainly will fight against any attempt to encroach on their sovereignty or to inflict regime change from outside.
What is happening in Venezuela is about class struggle. It's about the ruling elite who have been ousted from power, want to get back into power.
Yes.
That's what it's about. That's what it's about in Venezuela. That's what it's about in Nicaragua. That's what it's about. That those that are powerful and rich who have been deposed want to get back into power.
Importers of food have been using it as an economic weapon against the Venezuelan government.
Food shortages and everything else in Venezuela. Why? Because food is controlled by the monopolies, the big corporations, the food corporations. They're the ones who control the food. They're the ones who's turning on the supply and turning off the supply.
I think that they need to diversify the economy, and most importantly, I think they need to support small producers of agricultural produce so that there is food on the local market that is not affected by the US boycott, which has been so dreadful.
If there's an invasion, there will be a bloody war that will last for years, because there's no way Venezuelans are going to just sit down and take this. A friend of mine, Jose, who's a poet, said he'd rather die standing than just lie down and let the US walk all over them.
The forces of resistance are much greater than the forces of collaboration within Venezuela.
I think people don't understand the strength, the character of the Venezuelans, particularly the working class Venezuelans, who will fight this. So there will be a bloody war that will last for years if there is an invasion. And I just hope that there's not an invasion. It won't benefit anyone.
This effort has completely collapsed within Venezuela. Guaido is an insignificant person. 80% of the population had never heard of him before the 23rd of January.
Hands off Venezuela! Hands off Venezuela!